After a couple of weeks of hiatus, we are back on a Monday night for our first WWE Raw review since WrestleMania. And Raw, considering everything lately, has not been too horrible. Actually, I believe, and a lot of people do too, that Raw has been better than SmackDown lately. I figured I would come up tonight and we would bust out a review. This is kind of a makeup video since last night's watch-along got botched a little bit and I removed the video. This will be a little makeup, some makeup content for you, and we can talk about Raw, current events, news, anything else you guys want to get into tonight. And we will look ahead to Backlash, which is now just, I believe, a week from this Sunday. So just a little less than 2 weeks away until Backlash, and we got a good portion of the card now nearly solidified, and there's a good amount of matches on there. So we'll talk about that and go through tonight's segments and matches on the show. I would like to get you your grades of Raw. What did you think of the show tonight? Just give me a letter grade, A, B, C, or D. You can add some pluses or minuses in there if you want. I felt like Raw, at the end of the day, is still Raw, but what they're giving us, like especially last week, was a pretty, all over the place, fun professional wrestling show. And at the end of the day, that's all I really want. I thought the wedding was fucking ridiculous in a lot of ways. So was the lie detector test, but there were some funny moments in that too. You combine that with some decent wrestling last week and a title change, not bad. Tonight, we did have a couple of returns that was leaked earlier on in the day. Fightful Select is the culprit there. They let us know that Ali and Becky Lynch were both worked into the Raw plans for tonight. Ali, Becky Lynch, and Asuka, were all worked into Raw's plans tonight. So we knew we were going to get all of them returning, and Asuka and Mustafa Ali, especially, who've been gone for quite some time. It was cool and nice to see them turn back up, and looks like Asuka and Becky will rekindle a little bit of their rivalry before Becky blows off everything with Bianca. And shout out to whoever mentioned it to me on Twitter. Tonight, they had mentioned that Becky and Bianca are probably going to be targeting that Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, which I think is maybe in June this time around. I'm not quite sure about that. So that would be an excellent place to finally end that saga and have Becky take a little detour between now and then. Same thing with Bianca Belair. I don't know if they're going to try to make a triple threat with Becky, Bianca, and Asuka, or if Bianca, might face somebody else and let Asuka and Becky work together before you get to the next pay-per-view. Who knows? But it was good to see Asuka back, really good to see Ali back, and really great to see Becky back. Becky no belts. First time in 3 years she's strutted her pretty little face out there with no championship belts, and she felt a little bit naked out there, and she was going full psycho out there, missing her belts, demanding them back, wanting them back. And I kind of like that Becky has kind of changed her look up a little bit. That's what you got to keep doing, is just, continuing to evolve. And since she no longer is the champion, she kind of has this new attitude, new look, new hairstyle. And her and Seth, I don't know if they try these outfits on in front of each other at home before they decide what to wear on TV, but they are fucking ridiculous. But overall, I thought the show was acceptable for a Monday Night Raw. I didn't hate all of it. And there's a couple things that I was a little disappointed about. Some good and bad here, but overall, I was fine with Raw tonight. No real issues other than the typical issues that we have with WWE in every show they do. So other than that, Raw tonight was fine. If you are here, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button for me. I have no idea what kind of audience we're going to have tonight. If it's not a big one, I'm going to get my ass out of here pretty quick, but we'll see how that goes. If you're not a subscriber, also please do that. And the thumbs up would be very helpful. I'm going to cruise over here to the chat right now, say hello to everyone who is here. But I first want to shout out Isaac, who just popped in with a very generous $20 drop. I appreciate that, man. 1 year ago was the match between Riddle and Randy Orton that formed RK Bro. And now look where they are. Congrats to Randy for 20 years. Glad to have watched his career before my eyes and have grown up with him as well. Yeah, I bet a lot of fans, a lot of people in this chat too, the majority of their wrestling lives has had Randy Orton in it, And for me, I was already watching wrestling for 20 years before Randy Orton came along, but I would imagine that today's fans are going to, really consider Randy Orton as a big, big part of their wrestling memories. And he's had a great run. We talked about him on Saturday during the podcast and, relived some of his matches and moments and really put over how much he's matured and how he's grown, as a human being to, some of his earlier maturity problems, attitude problems, being able to fight through that, several suspensions, got in some trouble with the office a few times. But at the end of the day, he was able to sustain all of that and survive all of that And now he's found himself in a great place in life as a professional. He seems to be having the time of his life out there. As he said tonight in his promo, he ain't going anywhere. And he credited Riddle with a lot of that for him having such a good time. And I did not realize, Isaac, that it has been a year since they first started putting that together. I guess so, because we were all thinking that Randy and Riddle were going to face at SummerSlam last year, remember? And then Orton kind of disappeared for a month or so last summer, and then they picked everything back up, and now they're stronger than ever. I was thinking the split would be done way before this, but they're running with it, and I think the longer you run with it, the more significant the split will actually be when it happens, because you know what'll happen. And I even thought tonight that if WWE does not have the balls to do this, so they never would. But I kind of thought tonight when I was watching the opening celebration for Randy Orton, I'm like, if you wanted to throw the swerve of all swerves at us, you could turn Riddle right here and just attack Randy and lay him out and, reveal this new vicious side of Riddle. But that's not how WWE thinks. They've already marketed Riddle this way. They've got T-shirts that say Randy on it and all that stuff, so they're not going to do that. But you talk about, turning Raw on its ear and shocking the hell out of fans. I don't think anybody would have seen that coming, because most of us are expecting Randy to be the one to turn on Riddle and break his heart. If they flip the script on us, that might be kind of fun, but it takes balls to do that, and WWE has none. But it was still a fun segment overall. But congrats to the Viper, 20 years, like we said on Saturday, for him to go through all of these different chapters in his life and be such a multi-time champion. And when he came in kind of alongside John Cena, they were going to be the replacements for The Rock and Austin, and it was going to be tough for those guys to follow it. That's like Triple H and Randy Orton having to follow the Shawn and Taker match at WrestleMania 25. It sucks to be in that position. But all things considered, considering where the business was, the Attitude Era dying, and WWE ushering in this kind of just new era of no competition. The WWF has changed to WWE. They really felt like a different company from 2002. Between 2000 and 2002, so much changed. So by the time Orton and Cena got there and got put on the map, I thought it was going to be Orton that was going to be the guy between the two of them to have the greater success. I thought he was better looking. I thought he was more athletic. He definitely had the pedigree in wrestling already, 3 generations worth. And I just thought he was going to be the guy. But Cena leapfrogged him. Mostly because Cena kept his nose clean and, kept his shit together for the most part. And he was just overall a better representation for WWE, to send out public appearance wise. And he became, the next Hogan, and Orton was like right below him. But, as their careers progressed, I always preferred Orton over the two. You guys know this channel, gained its following basically by going to bat for John Cena. But really at the end of the day, I was more of a Randy Orton guy. And I never got on the Orton hating bandwagon. That shit was everywhere back in the day, maybe even as recently as 7 or 8 years ago, especially 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago when Orton was champion for a long time and he was the face of Monday Night Raw in like 08, 09. And a lot of people were tired of him and thought he didn't deserve his push and shit like that. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck fans want out of a wrestler. I was a huge fan of Ace Orton, his dad, and he's got, his grandfather was also a wrestler. He's got a wrestling family. His uncle wrestles, and he's had it in his blood. He's been backstage at shows since he was a little kid. He basically had an understanding of the business right from being born. And then the kid just happens to be good looking. He's got some size, some presence to him, and he is smooth as silk in the ring. And I just show me the downside. Maybe he's not the Rock on the mic. He's not Rock or Austin on the mic. But in terms of what he can do in the ring, I always thought that he was going to be an excellent heavyweight contender and, top tier roster member for years to come. But as the fans tend to do, they start getting ahead of themselves, and all of a sudden Randy's selfish, won't put anybody over, and all that same shit you hear about Cena and Roman, just a little bit taken back a bit. But I always had Randy Orton's back. I respect the balls out of that guy and have loved his career. And I love to see him where he is now, just having fun, going out there having fun. It doesn't seem like politics are a really big part of his career right now. He knows he's going to be, remembered and honored in WWE history until the end of time. This dude will probably have a statue. He'll be on a Rushmore, all that stuff. And I don't think really right now, he's really politicking hard for him to be at the top. I eventually think he will win a couple of more titles and maybe get him to a certain number that WWE wants. I'm curious if they want him and Cena to have the same, or if they really want Cena to have the most and Orton be right under him. I don't know. But I definitely hope we get Randy Orton around for another 10 years. That would be fantastic. And in terms of what he's doing right now, it's fun stuff with RK Bro. I really like it. And props to Randy Orton on a hell of a career so far. He's only 20 years in. He could easily go another 10. Max Pokebra, appreciate $5 from you as well. I was 8 years old when Randy first came in. Had my phase of not liking Orton when he beat Christian, but I'm way past that now. Congrats to Randy Orton. That is a very underrated feud, Randy Orton and Christian. That was good stuff back then. Doesn't get talked about enough. But yeah, there were plenty of situations that Randy found himself in, just like John Cena, like that Christian stuff, because Christian won the title and then he just dropped it right a couple days later or whatever it was. Fans were pissed about that. And of course, all of that anger gets dumped onto Randy Orton. It's not his fucking fault they're booking it this way. That's who WWE said, you guys go out there, you win, you lose. Neither guy's at fault. But a lot of the hate still went on him for that. And, because fans don't really know or understand how to direct their anger. So they take it out on the wrestler. And a lot of times he has nothing to fucking do with it. So I've always thought we could do a lot worse than Cena and Randy Orton when these guys were on top. When you think about where the business had been and what we had been dealing with, especially the Benoit death and stuff, it's like you just gotta chill for a little while and just have some good guys on top that represent the company well. And that's why they went with John Cena. But in the background, you had Randy Orton, tearing it up for 2 decades, and he is the man. Well, let me cruise back up here to the top of the chat. Shout out everybody real quick, and then we'll start getting into the Raw results. I want to shout out Nick Musser, man. Sorry to hear that you have tested positive for COVID today. Man, oh man. Well, good luck to you. That's a bummer. Stay isolated and drink your fluids and just kick back and try to shake it. I'm sure you will. Glad to see you've gotten some love in the chat there from everybody as well. Rodrigo, 7th SZN. Jay Lambo is here. So is Ben. And Divine Ricks, what's going on, buddy? And K-Dogs Ken. Oh, Kevin, good to see you. I know you are also battling some health problems as well. I appreciate that update on Twitter earlier today. And it's good to see you here as well, as always. Red Raven Ruckers in the house. Big J Scam Likely is here. Roderick. And we've got Deshaun Robinson and Sunnyman right on. We've got some grades coming in, C+, A, B-, A-. Okay, a little bit all over the place. Mezzo Songbird is here. Best of the best as well. Isaac, I got you earlier. We've got Victor. Did I get you yet? JJ Leg, MJ Parker, James, WWE fan. Latry White, Denny Downbad. James, I think I got you already. Kevin Davis is in the house. Stephen Harris. Nintendo Porn Company. Right on. Good to see you. Yeah, I agree with that take completely in regards to Randy Orton. Everything he does is clean, smooth, and crisp, and he's just a natural. Dude's a fucking natural. I used to be Dustin Rhodes' nickname when he first came in, the natural. I think Randy Orton's even more of a natural than Dustin Rhodes. Ooh, give me that match. Give me 2005 Randy Orton, or maybe 2004 Randy Orton against 1993 Dustin Rhodes. Give me that match. Whew, that would be a beautiful thing. Yeah, Barrio, my God. Just passed away recently, too, Barrio. JJ Leg, thank you for the $5 as well. I was 2 when Orton debuted. Holy shit. So Randy has always been in my wrestling memories. He was one of, if not the first heel I actually started liking. Yeah, and I think Randy Orton really is going, of today's generation, is going to be looked back on, 10, 20 years from now as one of the best. The very same people that were probably hating on him when he was winning too many titles are going to look back as adults and sing his praises to the younger generation below them who are making all their bullshit, false comparisons about everything going on in their universe. And then you can say, hey, Randy Orton was better than all those fucking guys. But you didn't think that when he was wrestling. To quote Andy Bernard from The Office, I wish there was a way to know you were in the glory days before you've actually left them. And I think about that when it comes to Randy Orton and John Cena, because when you look back at their career and how much complaining was going on during that time, you look back on it now, with your modern day set of eyes, and you're like, huh, there's some good shit back then. We were all complaining about John Cena beating Umaga, but that match was fucking great. It was great. I had no issue with him winning. So it's just, it's all about your age a lot. WWE put up the poll today. It showed the the last 4 WWE championship belts. The current one, the spinner, the undisputed, the big blue, and then the winged eagle or something like that. And they were like, of course, which one is your favorite? And everybody just gives their opinions. And you guys know I have very strong opinions about title belts. And everybody is going to have the same opinion about that. Whatever the belt was, and I'm going this by my own life. For me, of course, my favorite belt. My podcast is named after it, the Winged Eagle title. Why do I like the Winged Eagle title so much? Because it occupied the most impressionable time of my wrestling life. The Winged Eagle title was on TV from ages 11 to 21 for me. There you go. So if you're picking the Undisputed, if you're picking the Spinner, if you're picking any one of those other titles, I guarantee that was the championship that was used when you were the same age. In between there somewhere, between 11 and 21, at 10 and 20, somewhere in there, whatever that belt was between those years, that's the one you're going to pick every fucking time. Every fan is like that. So there's really no right answer there. It's just, whatever you remember, whatever gives you the feeling of nostalgia, that's the belt you're going to pick. And that's why I pick the Winged Eagle. And that's why it is. So anyway, we've been talking so much. We need to get into actual Raw results here, though. Thank you again, everybody who is here currently. Please do me a favor. Thumbs up that smash, you know what I mean? And make sure you subscribe. I want to apologize for last night. We came up here to do a Backlash 2004 watch-along. It was the pay-per-view that made me a true, real believer in Randy Orton when he had that just bonkers hardcore match with Cactus Jack. Mick Foley did the same thing for Randy Orton in Backlash 2004 that he did for Triple H at the Royal Rumble in 2000. That match in the Garden against Cactus made me a believer of Triple H. I had already liked him, but I was not quite sure if he could really hang in the big time. Could he work these style of matches? Is he all show when he's got no real toughness to him? And he made a believer out of me. And then Mick Foley turns around 4 years later, does the exact same thing for Randy Orton, because at that time, Randy Orton was kind of the pretty boy, the cocky, gum-chewing, suit-wearing guy with hookers hanging all over him, and guys like that usually aren't tough, you know what I mean? They get their nails done, and they tan, and all that stuff, and wax their chests. So you weren't sure, if Randy Orton really could get dirty, if he could get gritty. And when we watched it last night, that match is even 10 times crazier than I thought it was. I just remember the bareback thumbtack bump and me being blown away by that. I kind of forgot about the stage dive and all that other stuff. So that was crazy to watch that last night. Unfortunately, though, for the person that asked in the chat, I deleted the video because last night we experienced a small technical difficulty, which would not matter if this happened during a stream like this, because I could just take 5 seconds and fix it. But when you're doing a watch along and I got that timer going above my head, if my stream shuts down, the timer resets. That happened, and that really kind of screws up the replay value of the video because there's really no timer. So I had to scramble. I got out my second camera, plugged it in, and pointed it at the screen and was able to show the time on there. But it was really just clunky, and we had that stream interruption, so it would be really hard to really watch that back. So after last night, I just deleted the video. We've been doing watch-alongs, classic pay-per-view watch-alongs for a year and a half. We've really never had a problem like that. So we were still able to watch it last night and complete the pay-per-view. It just, it's going to be hard for anybody to go back and look at that. So I apologize for that. I'm going to work on doing another timer system. That way, if something like that happens again, it won't matter. So sorry about that last night, that we had those issues, but I appreciate everybody that hung out and stayed until the end. We did not let it beat us. We actually were able to get the watch along done, but it still kind of screwed up the video. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I don't think I got any more things to say. Next video planned after tonight will be Wednesday. We'll be up here again watching AEW Dynamite. And then I'm not sure what to do next weekend. It's going to be a pretty slow week. SmackDown has already been taped because the SmackDown crew, I believe, is overseas or is about to head overseas. I think everybody is, maybe. They might do a quick tour this week and then get their asses back. Because shit, Raw next week is in Greensboro. So maybe it's just the SmackDown crew. I don't know who's overseas, but somebody's over there. And SmackDown has been taped for this week, so there's not going to be much going on there. I don't know if they're going to set up any sort of decent Rampage or not for Friday when we watch Dynamite on Wednesday. So it's possible that Saturday's podcast might either be non-existent or just a quick news video if there's something interesting going on. So just keep that in mind for this weekend. But we will be back also this Sunday, Unforgiven 1998 watch along. We're going to do that one this Sunday. I was at that show in Greensboro, the site of this week's Monday Night Raw, actually. And that was the first ever Inferno match, Dude Love versus Steve Austin. And that was the night that Ric Flair was rumored to be kind of driving around the building, trying to work out a way for him to appear, but he never did. Met some wrestlers that day. Really fun show. So we will watch that on Sunday. Put that in your calendar. Okay, now I can officially shut up and start talking about tonight's Monday Night Raw. Show opened up with the Randy Orton 20th anniversary celebration, and this isn't just celebrating the 20th anniversary. Today is the 20th anniversary. He debuted on SmackDown against Bob Holly, April 25th, 2002. Riddle opens the show. He's in the ring. Bunch of talent on the outside, mostly baby faces, all out there, basically like lumberjacks. And Riddle then introduces a video package, which was really well done. Everything WWE does, from a production standpoint is always top notch. And it was a great look back on 2 decades of the Viper in WWE. We come back from video package. Riddle brings out Randy Orton, and he informs the crowd that he was actually born in Knoxville. Raw was in Knoxville, Tennessee tonight. I didn't know that. And he said he was born there, so that's appropriate that that's where he is. And that he's having the time of his life. And even though he's been in the company for 20 years, he has no plans on leaving anytime soon, which is great to hear. And he credits Riddle with bringing that life out of him, bringing that part of his personality where he's just there to have a good time. It's a far cry from where he was a year or so ago doing the stuff with The Fiend. So the fact that he's actually out there having a good time, I've been talking about that a lot recently in the last few months about how fun it is to see Randy Orton really out there having a good time, because sometimes he seemed like he had these attitude problems or he's grumpy and shit. Like just the fact that he's there, he's happy, he's in a good place in his life, he's, comfortable and secure in his roster spot, and he's just there to have a good time. We saw him, having a ball at the Hall of Fame. He was dancing around to Bianca Belair's music last week. He is hilarious. So you just love to see Randy Orton having this type of fun. And I think RK Bro is the most overact in the company right now, which when that inevitable split happens is going to be really interesting. Riddle has got some guests for Randy Orton. One of them is a surprise, and he says that these two guys go way back, and this guy considers Randy Orton a friend, and you knew who he was going to bring out. He brought out Cody Rhodes, who, of course, goes way back with Randy Orton back to the Legacy days, and they were rivals a bit as well. So Cody comes out, he gives Randy Orton a big hug, and then Seth Rollins, apparently he was sitting at ringside this whole time in this ridiculous green and white suit, and he's like, he's laughing, and he gets up and interrupts. And then the Usos come out as well, followed by Kevin Owens, followed by Ezekiel. So as soon as you just look at the situation here, I'm like, okay, you got 4 babies, you got 4 heels. Where's Teddy Long? Out comes Adam Long, and of course makes an 8-man tag team match main event that you could have seen coming 27 miles away. So 8-man tag in the main event, but on paper, pretty good looking 8-man tag. And how about Ezekiel getting a main event? I mean, all of those years that Elias was on the roster doing nothing, and his brother comes in and immediately gets main event tag matches on Raw. You think Elias is like jealous, at all? I'm curious. I mean, we were all just begging WWE to do something more with Elias than just coming out there playing the guitar and get interrupted. And they never did. They bring in his brother, and all of a sudden, now they know how to push one of these family members. It's ridiculous. Hopefully, when Elias comes back, he'll get the same treatment that his brother did. So that'll be in the main event later on. The first match was the scheduled Women's Championship match that was set up last week. Bianca Belair defending her title against Sonya Deville right here in Bianca Belair's hometown. Backstage, she was shown chatting with Mayor Kane. Let's just move on from Mayor Kane. And then we get to the match. Now, I was kind of assuming for this, because Becky Lynch was also booked for the show, was that Becky would come out and fuck this match up, or come out at the end and set up Bianca and Becky Lynch at Backlash. But it doesn't look like that'll be the case now. I would actually really like them to push Becky and Bianca to Hell in a Cell. I think that would be the most perfect blow-off for those two, especially after their rivalry at that point will be almost a year long. be a perfect way to kind of end that whole thing and have Bianca continue her run. And I did not think that she would be dropping the title here to Sonya Deville, but I knew that Sonya Deville would try to pull some shit. And again, it's just one of my biggest complaints with WWE Raw. It's so predictable. It's just they just use, it's redundant. They use these same scenarios and just plug them in to different matches. How many times before have we seen somebody in an authority role get counted out and then they change the rules and then something else happened, they change the rules? So as soon as Sonya got counted out right off the bat, something happened, she got chucked down the outside of the ring, fell or hurt herself or whatever, and she actually got counted out within the first like 10 seconds of the match. And I right here in my chair, I'm like, she's going to restart the match. And then as soon as she did, I'm like, now what's going to happen is she's going to get disqualified and she's going to restart the match again. So basically, while the referee was counting Sonya Deville out, I said out loud the next two steps that they were going to do because we've seen it before a bunch of fucking times. And I understood why they did it. It made a lot of sense why they did it. I don't want to complain about WWE making Bianca Belair look strong because Bianca's awesome. She's one of my favorite people in the entire company. So having her essentially beat Sonya Deville 3 times in one match, is cool from the perspective of, oh, book your champion strong. I'm a big believer in that. But you did it in such a goddamn predictable way. So, of course, Sonya's counted out, restarts the match and says, no countouts. Instead of just saying no countouts, no disqualifications, she says no countouts first. Again, telegraphing that they're going to do the DQ, which she did. She used a chair on Bianca Belair next. Referee calls for the bell, and then she gets on the mic again and says, no, it's going to be, I'm restarting the match, no DQ and no countout this time. So why is it that some championship matches you have to have a whole contract signing for, and other ones you can just get on the mic and say the match is happening? Where are the rules? Who makes these rules? Who's the person that made the rules? Show them to me. I want to see their face. Match gets restarted for a second time. Bianca eventually hits the KOD on Sonya, pins her right in the middle, and that's exactly the way I would have done it. So I don't think you needed the extra shit. I would have been fine with a one-on-one match and Bianca winning, but they added the stuff to it, so Bianca could basically just whip her ass for 15 minutes, and that was, at the end of the day, fine with me. It's just I wish they would get a little bit more creative with the stuff, you know what I mean? It's just so bad, so bad. After that, we get an Edge promo with Damien Priest. This is one of those, studio dark, dreary, throne smoke shots that they do. And have I been sleeping? How long has Edge's group been called Judgment Day? I heard them when Priest would come out to his match later against Finn Balor. The ring announcer says, representing Judgment Day. Is that the name of their faction? And when did that get made? Has this been like 2 weeks and I've just completely been oblivious to it? Interesting that he named himself after a former WWE pay-per-view. Actually, who sent that to me? On Twitter just a minute ago. There is Judgment Day 2009. Edge is on the cover of that. I have no idea Edge's win-loss record at Judgment Day. So while I'm talking, one of you guys can look that up and let us know if he even has done well at Judgment Day or not. But I guess that's the name of their faction. And okay. So he talks about his upcoming match with AJ Styles at Backlash, which I believe AJ agreed to last week. And then Damian Priest calls out Finn Balor. So we had a feeling that, Balor and AJ might be teaming up. Next week is the go-home show for Backlash, so I feel a tag match there. But they might want to hold off AJ and Edge, until the pay-per-view, not have them have any interaction in the ring. But I feel like that's a tag match waiting to happen. If it doesn't happen next week on the go-home, it'll probably happen on the post-Raw. Wouldn't be surprised there at all. And Edge already won at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? So how are they going to do this at WrestleMania Backlash? If Edge has got this brand new faction, I'm not beating them yet, but they kind of formed the faction at WrestleMania in the match that he also won. So I feel like Edge will probably win again at Backlash, and then maybe they'll do the tag the next night and give AJ and Balor the win, to kind of offset that a little bit. Or, like I've already mentioned a couple of times that a couple people were adamantly against, was that what's wrong with Finn Balor joining Edge's group? I have no idea what's going on with Finn Balor based on what happened with him tonight. It feels like they might just be jobbing him out. I did not think he would take a clean loss right after dropping his U.S. belt last week, but he did. And who knows? I don't even know how much time is left on his contract, but maybe he knows he's out the door and WWE knows it too. But if he's got some time left and he's going to stick around, or they're just going to continue to use him, Judgment Day, the faction, could be a good way to bring back out that demon persona in him. And it would certainly match a little bit of whatever the hell you want to call this character that Edge has. I don't know how I feel about these, dark, I don't know, supernatural-ish comic book type of fantasy thing. What's the category? I don't even know what the category is. Whatever Edge and Malachi Black does, whatever that shit is. I think it would suit Balor a lot more than suit AJ Styles. So I think first you got to do Balor and AJ together in a team. They could even tease some Bullet Club stuff if they wanted. Or you could have Balor just flat out turn on AJ and join Edge and Damien Priest. Might be another good way to have Edge beat AJ if somebody turns and helps Edge win. AJ can be like, yo, this is the second time you've fucking done this. And then that could be, ooh, that's a good idea. What about Edge and AJ in Hell in the Cell? Am I right about Hell in the Cell, by the way? Can I look this up right here so I can just confirm with myself? When is WWE Hell in the Cell 2022? There it is. Date, June 5th. Okay, perfect. So yeah, you could do that. You could have some interference. It doesn't have to be Balor turning, but you could have Damien Priest get heavily involved in the match again at Backlash. Edge wins again. And then AJ's like, this is bullshit. I challenge you one more time, but this time you're not going to have any of your friends, Damien Priest specifically. Priest will not be able to get in the ring. And I challenge you to Hell in the Cell. Edge accepts. Then you do the Hell in the Cell, and the guys have a fucking legendary match. Edge and AJ Styles in Hell in the Cell. Whew, that's going to be good. That's going to be good. But you could do the deal where AJ thinks that he's got Edge right where he wants him and nobody can help Edge. Lights go down, they come back up, and the demon comes from under the ring, attacks AJ Styles, and Edge wins again. Beats AJ all 3 times with help from a different person each time. Or help from somebody each time, I should say. And then Priest enters the ring. Priest, Demon, and Edge celebrate over AJ's body in the middle of the Hell in the Cell. I'd be fine with that. Show me the downside to doing that with Balor. It's either that or he just continues to lose every damn week as a babyface on TV. I'll go with my idea. After that, Veer won a squash match against some schmuck. Did not see him. The only thing cool about him was his haircut. Didn't see who he was, but Veer beat him up and then beat him up some more, I think, after that. And then we get the arm wrestling match. So it's tough for any arm wrestling match. We've had a lot of them in the last 25 years, but I still haven't seen one better than Sonny and Marlena from the Manhattan Center. But this one was pretty good. Omos and MVP are out in the ring first, cutting a promo. They got the arm wrestling shit set up there. And then they bring out Lashley, and they do the arm wrestling contest. And normally in these things, who had one with Mark Henry? It was like Mark Henry and Ryback or something. Every time you do one of these things, somebody kicks the other guy, and then it's a schmaz. You very rarely have winners. Sometimes you do. And Lashley, I just thought with Omos's reach, and how long he is, he could just, if he starts to lose, he could just pop Lashley, and then the referee throws the whole thing out. But Lashley is able to actually win this. And then after that, Omos attacks Lashley, beats him down hard, and him and MVP basically celebrate over Lashley's carcass. But I am really happy. I should say this first. I'm really happy that Omos has a mouthpiece now because MVP's great in that role. So that makes sense. But how they got there makes no sense to me. I do not understand why MVP, one night after Bobby Lashley beat Omos clean with no help, MVP wasn't even out there. He beat Omos completely clean for MVP to dump Lashley and go with Omos, thinking he's the better man when he just got beat the night before is really weird. Here I thought Heyman dumping Brock for the Big Show was stupid. This makes even less sense. It makes sense from a perspective of Omos, give him a manager, give him somebody to speak for him, fine. But I would have put Omos over at WrestleMania. Hate to say it. I would have had MVP maybe turn on Lashley in the match, allowing Omos to win, because now it just makes MVP look stupid that he's purposely hitching his trailer to the weaker man when Lashley's a former multi-time WWE champion who has won a lot of matches against a lot of big names. Omos is largely unproven because he's just been winning squashes for the past year, and he hasn't really been tested. And the one time he was tested, he lost. So why would you go with him? Why would you go with Omos instead of the already proven winner here? So it makes MVP look strange, but there's a lot of things WWE does that doesn't make much sense, and this is one of the ones that bothers me the least. So I really should stop bitching about that. Then we get the mixed tag. Man, I barely even watched any of this. So we had the wedding last week with all sorts of weird shit happening. This week we got a mixed tag, Tamina and Tozawa taking on Dana and Reggie, and we have R-Truth as the referee. So R-Truth, I can just watch R-Truth referee a match with nobody, with a tag team match with 4 little Jimmies in it, and just let him referee that. I'd be fine with it. I was doing everything but watching this match when it was happening. I was in the other room. I was walking around. I was scratching my butt. When I came back, I saw that the match was over. Tamina and Tozawa got the win. And the best part was at the end when R-Truth rolled up Dana Brooke, who still is the 24/7 champion, tried to roll up Dana Brooke. And since he's the referee, he tried to count his own fall, which made the whole match worth it to me. That fucking cracked me up. So R-Truth still out here doing his thing. After that, we had a Becky Lynch promo. She is back. She comes out, first appearance since WrestleMania. Loving the new look of hers. I think she looks great. The way she's kind of changed up her look a little bit now that Bianca cut her hair off, and thought her really, really outlandish outfits are getting kind of funny. I did like the crazier makeup she had at WrestleMania, kind of like the David Bowie type of thing. She didn't have that here tonight. She looked a little bit more... a little less makeup going on, but still, I really kind of like her new look, and I'm glad that she's doing this and just kind of changing some stuff up, so she's not just the same old Becky coming out there this time just with no titles. I would really like, somebody like Bianca Belair to go through similar changes. I think she desperately needs to change at some point. Maybe not exactly yet, but how far can you go with twirling the hair and dancing around? At some point, you got to do something else. And I think she will, because we thought Bayley was stuck in that role for a while. She was way too over with the kids, and she had the hugs and the bullshit and the funny ponytail, and that all got stripped away. She had Aunt Janet hair and turned into, a real vicious, cagey, conniving type of heel who is still entertaining. So I really hope at some point when the time comes, WWE is not too scared to do that with Bianca, because I think she's got all the talent in the world and should be allowed to spread her wings a little bit and see, where she can go, with her personality and her wrestling character. And just please don't make Bianca John Cena and keep her the exact same for 12 years. I really think that you gotta evolve a little bit here. You know what I mean? So Becky seems very upset that she no longer has her championships. She says it's been 3 years, and she's right. It's been 3 years since she's come to the ring without a championship belt. Nobody was able to beat me in 3 years, when really it was 2, because she was gone after being pregnant. But she is a little bit unstable kind of in her words. She was going on and on and on, and seemed very, like triggered or something, and felt like she was going a little bit batshit, and seems to be really obsessed with this. And that's when Asuka's music hits, and Asuka, who's been gone since, when did she leave? 2004? She's finally back, and she comes out, and she looks great. Crowd loves her. They're chanting, "Welcome back." And she says a couple of funny things to Becky Lynch, and I really like this kind of moment between the two as well, because they've got a very storied rivalry. They've had a lot of matches together, some big ones on pay-per-view. Becky's won one, some. Asuka's won some. But more importantly than that is when Becky was pregnant, remember, she gifted the championship to Asuka right after Money in the Bank when Asuka won that. And she goes, "Guess what? You didn't just win the briefcase. Open that bitch up. See what's in there. Big, shiny red belt." Gave it to her and says, "I'm going to go be a mom." And Asuka's like, "You're pregnant?" And she hugs her. It was a great moment. Even though it was in the pandemic, it was one of the more sweeter moments in wrestling history, even though there was no fans in the arena to appreciate it. So I kind of like that they're revisiting these two. And I'm curious how this will play in now, to Bianca Belair's run, if these two are going to try to set something up at Backlash, because Backlash is coming up in less than 2 weeks, right? And Bianca currently doesn't have a match. I was kind of thinking she'd work with Sonya if they did something in the match tonight where, Sonya pulled some shady shit and got herself DQ'd, and they didn't restart the match, then maybe they would push it to Backlash. But I don't know what they're going to do. They might just do Becky and Asuka, and maybe Bianca doesn't have a title match because Ronda and Charlotte are facing in the I Quit. So it's very possible that Bianca sits Backlash out. And if she did, I wouldn't even care. Who cares? It's a big deal. No big deal. So if she does that, Becky and Asuka can have the one-on-one, and then probably the winner of that will perhaps face Bianca Belair, or they could do a deal where it's a triple threat if they wanted to. Now, if you are going to do a one-on-one match with Becky and Asuka, honestly, I ain't beating either one of them right now, so I don't know how they're going to do that, which is why the triple threat thing does kind of make a little bit of sense. But we'll keep our eye on it. All I know is it's good to have Asuka back. Kind of funny how she did the little nose touch thing to Becky, and Becky did a great job with her reactions. I'm not a huge fan of Becky Lynch on the mic. Tonight she was a little bit better, and I really did like the interaction and the back and forth between Becky and Asuka. I thought it was well done, and Becky played her role well. And looking forward to seeing what they do. Welcome back, Asuka. So good to see Asuka back. She was always one of my favorites. Finn Balor taking on Damien Priest next one-on-one. I didn't give this match all of my attention because I was kind of walking around, but from what I could tell, this was a clean win for Damien Priest, right? I don't... kind of looks like he's using a new finisher too, but I did not catch if there was any interference or anything like that. I don't think there was. Edge was sitting up on the stage in his throne watching the match, and they're kind of doing the deal where Damien Priest basically just worships Edge, kneels before him, adopts everything he says as his own, and just really, really, really believes in Edge. So Edge has got himself a pretty badass disciple here in Damien Priest, and knocking off Balor relatively clean from what I could tell. 1 week after he dropped his U.S. title to Theory, doesn't make my wrestling heart feel very good, but it is what it is, and it's exactly what I really expect from WWE. Have they ever known what to do with Finn Balor? No. So you can't act shocked here. Speaking of Theory, he's out next to be a guest on Miz TV, and there's been a lot of talk about Theory lately, and there's been some reports online that WWE is all about Theory. But as fans, we already know that because Vince McMahon would not plug himself into a storyline unless he really wants to be hands-on with this piece of talent. There's been a lot of comparisons lately between Austin Theory and John Cena when he came in. You know, they're both really good-looking guys with a lot of upside, and Theory honestly might even be a little further along than Cena was in the ring when Cena came in after OVW. I think Theory might be a little more polished than John Cena was at that time. And based on his look and his age and how many decades he still has ahead of him in the pro wrestling business, pending injuries and things like that, I can kind of understand that. He definitely has that WWE look and package to him. And with Vince being so hands-on with his angle and storyline, it's going to have to lead to something. So we'll see, if he ever falls out of favor with the company. But if they want to, hitch their wagon to him, like they did back in the day to Cena, that could be something that we're going to have to get used to. And there could be an awful lot of Theory in our future, which you know what that means. Once he starts winning too much, good mic work's going to have to come up here and defend him. So looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. But during Theory's little sit down here with The Miz, we get our second return. Well, technically third if you count Becky Lynch of the night. Mustafa Ali finally comes back. There was word today from Fightful that he was penciled in on the internal Raw script, and they were going to do something with him. He's been off TV for quite some time. He asked for his release. WWE did not give it to him for whatever reason, when they don't seem to really care about releases much these days. So it reeks of spite because Ali's been very open and very vocal about that he's been unhappy there. And, whenever you do that, WWE just usually fucks with you. So they brought him back to TV here. No word on if he even wants to be there or if he's worked out any of his issues with WWE. He might just be so turned off. He's like, look, you can't stop me from coming to work. You need me for Raw, I'll be there and I'll do whatever you ask. But you got to know, I'm out of here the second my contract is up. I've got 1 foot out already, but maybe they've brought him back, had conversations with him, whatever they've decided or discussed. He's willing to stick around now and he wants to give it another go. He didn't come out with some crazy gimmick, which is good. I was worried that they were going to bring him back, with some weird ass angle whenever WWE does that. It's usually half-ass offensive, so I'm fine with them not doing that. just bringing him back as a good, credible, solid worker like anybody else on the roster is all you really need for a guy like this. He's supremely talented, and there should be no reason why he, isn't at least in the same position on the card that Ricochet would be on SmackDown, So, and he might get there because he came out and directly challenged Theory for the U.S. title, which Theory then says no. We're going to get that match maybe even next week, maybe even a Backlash, who knows? And instead of facing Theory, Ali gets to face The Miz instead. So we go to commercial, we come back, it's Ali versus The Miz. Ali does get the win. He counters a figure four with an inside cradle or roll-up and gets a quick pin on The Miz. And, of course, Corey Graves is saying Miz wasn't prepared and he wasn't ready, even though he was in his gear. And he wound up losing, and Ali is back with a win. So we'll see. Maybe next week they will book the U.S. title match for Backlash. I don't think there's an IC title match booked for that show, so putting U.S. on there is possible. And they could also just do something like that on Raw. But you got to wonder, Ali coming back in and challenging for the U.S. title, is this a title he's going to win? I don't think so. I think they're bringing him in to job to Vince's pet. Ali is the guy that should be in Theory's position. Not Theory, but, Theory is. So I think that I don't know of any way WWE would take a guy who's vocally unhappy and then bring him in and put him over and beat one of your stars of the future for a championship. Doesn't seem like something WWE would do. So whenever Ali does get in the ring with Theory, I think he's going to lose. But all I care about is Ali's happiness. I just would be so deflated, and my spirit would be so broken if I had to go to somewhere where I didn't want to be. Where I hate everything there. So I don't know if that's still the case with Ali. Like I said, he might have worked everything out. Everything might be all happy now. But if not, and he's just there because WWE's paying him, they need to make use of him, then, I just hope that he can get out of there as soon as possible. And, maybe WWE releases him down the road, because even though they haven't released him now, maybe they will in the future. They just want to fuck with people. That's all they want to do. It's all they care about. So, glad Ali's back, but unless something behind the scenes has been worked out, I don't see, anything more than him just being on TV, being in matches, and losing a lot. That's all I really see. So we'll see what the future holds for Ali. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, he's going to come back to a nice, decent little run of some kind and have a couple good angles, a feud, maybe even win a title. But I ain't holding my breath because I might die. Then we had our main event, 8-man tag. We've got Cody Rhodes, Ezekiel, RK Bro, taking on the Usos, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins. This was a pretty fun 8-man tag. It sure as hell had a lot of stars in it. And how about Ezekiel? Brand new guy, brand new. He's been on TV for, 2 weeks, and he's already in Raw main events. Has anybody had a run to the top that fast? Has anybody been in the main event of Raw 2 weeks after they did their debut? If you weren't already an established star, and Ezekiel's a brand new guy we never heard of before, all we know of him is his brother, so he's not proven. So for him to come in and get this type of match is good for him. Everybody else in there are main event players, and it was a fun match overall. Basically, you knew it was going to be focused and centered around Randy Orton in the finish here because it is his 20-year anniversary. And oh boy, did they do that. RKO to everyone, literally everyone. Aiden RKO, excuse me. I think Seth took one first, then Owens. Then the Usos kind of took a tandem one. It was kind of like a 3D. I think they basically, Riddle and Orton hit Jay, I think, with a 3D, or Jimmy with a 3D. And then Jay was climbing up to the top, and you could see what was going to happen here. He's basically climbing up to the top rope. Orton's back is turned. Riddle's like, dude, bro, look up there. It's an Uso. And, of course, Orton turns around. Jay leaps, boom, right into the RKO for the win. All four members of the heel team, Aiden RKO and Randy Orton, and his bros celebrate. So that was how the show kind of concluded. I thought it was a fun 8-man tag. 8-man tags, especially when they're packed with stars like this one is always going to be good. And I liked some of the stuff on the show. I liked the Asuka and Becky stuff. I thought that was fun. Even though I didn't like the predictability of it, I liked that Bianca Belair beat Sonya Deville 3 times in one match. That was pretty good. Arm wrestling match wasn't that boring. And, the celebration was fun. So overall, I probably would agree with anybody that gives the show a C or B or something like that. I'd probably concur with that. So what do y'all think? Oh, yeah, and I saw a lot of people talking about Ciampa. Now, Tommaso Ciampa is the latest in WWE name changes. He is now just going by Ciampa. He must have been on the show briefly tonight, and I didn't see him. Okay, there we go. That's why, I walked away. It was after the Ali match with The Miz. Is that what it was, or did that happen backstage? Whatever happened between Ciampa and Ali, I missed. Sorry about that. So I knew he was on the show tonight. I saw people mentioning him on Twitter, but I didn't see what the fuck happened. I must have been out of the room or something. So, or not paying attention, because normally I watch Raw right here on my other computer, but I couldn't pull up my stream. It just wouldn't load for some reason. I don't know why. So I had to have Raw on my TV on the wall, and it's just harder to read or watch over there while I'm making notes. So I might have missed a couple things. Sorry about that. But I forgot about Ciampa. So, yeah, he's going to be, I guess, a heel. I was hoping Ciampa and Rhea Ripley both would join Judgment Day, but looks like that's not going to be the case now. And Ciampa and Ali, if they're going to enter a program with each other, sure. But the matches, we know, will be super fun. But is WWE going to give these guys any time to really do anything? I just worry that some blank Ciampa and Ali feud is going to amount to nothing but 4-minute matches on Raw and maybe a pay-per-view kickoff match if they're lucky, that type of thing. I'd much rather see a pairing like that take place in another company's ring. No, I did not DA 30. Did I see the tease with Riddle? What did they tease? Something with a split? Oh, yeah, and I saw Rhea and Liv had the backstage brawl. I didn't even write that down. That's not even worth talking about. So, but I did see that. And no, I don't know what you are talking about with the tease with Riddle. I don't know if he did something in the match or whatnot. Usually, the main events of Raw are always hard for me to pay attention to because once the main event starts, I'm turning my lights on, I'm getting my shit ready, I'm watching, but I'm not, basically I'm just here to write down the winner. I'm not paying too much attention to everything there. Dexter Lumis and Edge's faction, maybe. He's a little too comedy right now, or at least he was. I don't know what's going on with him and Indy Hartwell. I think they're still married, right? Index is still a thing. But it got kind of weird, even though he's kind of a scary dude. It started taking a turn towards the silly there for a while, and I don't know. WWE fan, I mentioned the mixed tag match a minute ago. I just talked about it. It was Tozawa and Tamina winning over Reggie and Dana, and I thought R-Truth trying to roll up Dana and count his own pin was fucking hilarious. I did mention that. So the only thing I really forgot here was the Ciampa attack on Ali. I didn't even see that, and I didn't even write down Liv and Rhea Ripley brawling because I don't fucking care at all. Like both of those women a lot, but don't care of WWE trying to push a feud between the two. I just don't think it's going to be as good as it could be. So I just give up on it. Joe Grace, Harland could maybe be in there. I'd keep them in NXT for a while though, but you never know. As soon as WWE feels like they're ready for somebody to come up, they'll be called up. It won't matter to them if we think it's time for them to come up. They're just going to do it. So you could be right. They could actually do it. Blade Runner Becky. Yeah, kind of. She kind of got that look. I like her new look. Oh, yeah, I got a couple super chats I got to knock out as well. Oh, just one. Victor Colon, thank you for that $2 earlier, dude. Dude, the watch along was great. You did great, man. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, the only reason I deleted it was because anybody who wants to rewatch it or watch it back, it's going to be really hard to follow along with my timer being all fucked up and stuff. So it's just hard. It's only going to be an issue when we do a classic watch along where we have like a timer involved. That's the only time any sort of technical difficulties could really fuck us up. If it happened here, we could just shut it down, reboot it, we'd be fine. But I got to come up with an alternate solution just in case that happens again. Ha! Phenomenal forearm off the top of the cell. Hell yeah, man. Jordan Carr, good to see you as well. Glad you're here, man. Everybody else who's come in after the shout outs. Okay, DA30. Riddle broke up the hug between Cody and Randy at the beginning of the show. I didn't even see that. I saw the hug. I didn't notice that Riddle broke him up. I like that. Riddle's going to get, jealous that Randy Orton has other friends? It's just like a kid, like a 5-year-old. That's so funny. I completely missed that. That's great. I mean, Riddle's getting some reps, man. He's been in the ring a lot in some big matches and with some pretty heavy-duty opponents, and he's been in main events. When this whole RK Bro thing runs its course and we do the split, we do the feud, I think Randy Orton's going to put Riddle over. I do. I think whenever that happens, Randy will make Riddle, just like Foley made him, just like a lot of guys helped make Randy. I think he might have a chance and find himself in the position now to do the same thing for somebody else. And when you have a partnership and an affiliation with a guy for this long, and then you do the split, and then you have a 3 or 4 month program after that, it's going to be they're going to have a long run together. So by the time that's over, this whole Randy Orton situation could really launch and elevate Riddle to that next level, to where he's no longer just the stoner, goofy 5-year-old in a man's body. He is, actually a guy that's a credible opponent, because a dude can scrap for reals. So I think he's got championship potential all over him. I like Riddle a hell of a lot more than Theory, tell you that. Roderick Strong in Edge's faction? Yeah, maybe. Nobody in NXT is on my radar, Rodrigo. I don't even think about that show anymore. Probably won't ever again. So, you know what I'm saying? Yachiro, it's okay that you're late. I'm going to get out of here anyway, because there is not many people here in the chat, and there's not much to talk about. So just wanted to come up here and do a quick Raw review and then call it a night. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks again. If you don't mind, smash the thumbs up button on the way out the door, and I will catch you Wednesday night for the Dynamite Watch Along. And then we'll see whatever else we have planned for this week. I'll keep you updated on Wednesday. So you guys have a great rest of your Monday evening. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll catch you all Wednesday night for some AEW.